Hello, friends, and welcome. I'm Cassidy Carson, and this is The Life of a Writer. You may notice that I'm a little more dressed up today than I am normally when I record these videos because JT and I just did a podcast interview with another author, and we have so much fun doing these. It's interesting that I'm always dreading them before we get started, and once we're done, it's like, well, I could have talked to that person for hours. Today's interview was no different, and that's what got me thinking about my topic for the day, and that is connections. So, I have mentioned before that JT and I are retired, and we started our full-time writing career, even though we've both been writing for many, many years, sort of as a retirement career. We retired from our jobs in public service working for the state of Nevada, and JT retired before I did. He was bored, and I suggested he get back to writing, and that snowballed. I always intended to write full-time once I had retired, but I don't think he was thinking along those lines. But really, the point of my topic today isn't so much the retirement career, it's the fact that retirees don't always have the same connections that we once did. Obviously, when JT and I worked for the state government, we had many connections in the various offices where we worked. And I have been trying to maintain my connections as much as possible with my former coworkers, but sometimes it can be hard to go visit, despite the fact that I'm actually only about a half a mile from where I used to work. But things come up, like for the past month or so, JT and I have been going back and forth with a cold or something, and I didn't want to go into the office and maybe make someone sick because they would have to take time off of work. So despite my intention to go visit my former coworkers who are now, I just consider them my friends, I haven't been back to the office because, like I said, I don't want to make anybody sick, especially if they need to rely on saving their sick leave for if something really horrible comes up, which a lot of people tend to do. When we're working full-time, I think many of us, especially in American society, will try to go to work even though we're not feeling great because we want to maintain our sick leave in case something comes up. And that's an unfortunate turn of events because we really need the time to rest and recuperate. So even though I'm trying to maintain those connections, I am not going into the office as much as I had hoped. I do plan to start working from the building where I used to work. It is a library, so I can go in there and do some of my writing. And once I finish my current 2 works in progress, I have one that I specifically would like to work on over there so that I have access to the reference materials. And part of the reason is that Battleborn Bride, the book that I hope to release in October, takes place in Carson City. A lot of the inspiration came from when I was working at the State Archives, and the library recently opened a Mark Twain reading room. So that would give me access to a lot of materials that I would want from the time period that I'm writing about. And that would allow me to maintain my connections with my former coworkers because it's always fun to go visit them. It's like, I feel like they are so excited to have the break in their routine. If, it's flattering to think that they're happy to see me, but I think part of it is, oh, hey, I can take a few minutes off of what I'm doing and chat with you. So maintaining those connections is important for retirees. And the podcasts that JT and I record allow us to maintain connections with people that we don't know, who I think in some cases may become not friends, but at least good acquaintances, because I have then, once we've interviewed them on our podcast, I will sometimes go and follow their social media and interact with them that way. And sometimes they come back onto the podcast and we can catch up. So I'm hoping to develop more of those connections as we record these podcasts and as we meet more people. Especially as writers, it is important to have a group of people that are sharing the same type of experience. We are all colleagues, as JT likes to say. We're not competition, we're colleagues. So connections are important. And despite all the challenges we have with things like social media, and if you are following along, you'll see a few days ago I posted about my frustrations with social media, especially with everything that's going on with TikTok right now. So maintaining connections with people on social media can be tricky, but with these other avenues, we can connect, maybe not personally, but hopefully people who are watching or listening to our podcast will feel a connection to whoever we're talking to, because we do all share a lot of similar experiences and interests and challenges, and it helps us to not feel so alone. And I think this is especially important for people like JT and myself who are retired, because I think it's very isolating to be a retired person, because we are happy to not have to leave the house every day. So we tend to lounge around at home, especially as writers, and not go out in the public very often, even though JT has started breaking up his weekly routine by going to the local coffee shop, Kama Coffee, at least a few days a week to get a change of environment while he's writing. And I'm sure it's also partially just connecting to whoever happens to be sitting around him. If not chatting with them, but at least feeling the vibe that there are other people in the world, because the two of us share a house. We're not in something like an apartment complex. We see our neighbors in passing and say hello and wave to them. But overall, we don't connect with people on a daily basis as much as we used to. So doing our podcast and interviewing authors on the podcast is a great way of maintaining connections with fellow authors, but also to make new acquaintances who may become more friendly as time passes. And I would like to encourage everyone, depending on what you do in your day-to-day life. If you have children, obviously you're going to have a lot of connections with their friends and the families of their friends and their schools. If you are still working, you're going to have the connections with your fellow office mates or the customers that you deal with on a regular basis. And if you are someone older, then you might not quite have as many connections as you once did, but it's definitely worthwhile to cultivate and maintain as many connections as possible while you are enjoying your retirement. Because, to be blunt, I love not having to get up on a schedule and shower and go out in the cold and scrape my car, even though I do miss seeing my former coworkers and the regular researchers who used to come into the archives. So there are benefits to retirement. There are also drawbacks, and I think the loss of some of our connections is one of the biggest drawbacks of the retirement time of our lives. And a lot of older people, especially if they lose a spouse or if they've been living on their own maybe their entire lives, may not connect with other people outside their home as often as they should, because human connection is really necessary for, I think, our health, both physical and mental health, because a lot can be said for going outside of your comfort zone to maybe help somebody else. It distracts you from how you're feeling, which is not to say you should ignore how you're feeling, but sometimes a distraction can help you from becoming too mired in your aches and pains when they're not really as serious as you might think they are. Definitely get them checked out, but if it's not something to worry about, don't dwell on it. And maintaining connections with other people, thinking about other people, helps to actually draw us out of ourselves, helps maintain a connection with the world around us, and helps to definitely improve our mental health. And I think one of the big challenges we're facing as a society right now, excuse me, my mouth is a little dry, it's that time of year. We've got the heater going, and it dries everything out. Plus, like I said, we just recorded a podcast, so I was already a little dry. But I think one of the societal problems we're having right now is maintaining connections on a healthy level with people that we may not agree with. Because, as I said, we all face very similar challenges, interests, likes, dislikes, and we should remember that more often. So maintaining connections with people, even if we don't get along with them, can be a healthy way to navigate the world at large, especially in challenging times like what we're facing right now. Because to be blunt, there are certain people who think they are above everyone else, and unfortunately they will find out that's not the case, because we all come from the same place and we end up in the same place. So I just want to encourage you today to think about your connections. It doesn't mean that you have to hang out with people that you don't like and don't agree with, because that's not healthy either. But try to take a step back and think about where they're coming from. And, maybe if you do randomly say good morning to someone and they're not having a good day, but you provide them a smile, you could be helping that person's day. That may be the high point. That may be the connection they need to help them get through that day. So connecting with others can go both ways. And that's just something I was thinking about after JT and I recorded our podcast today, because like I said, I often dread them before we get started, but inevitably by the end, I feel like we could have chatted for hours. And I will admit, I do love chatting with people. I love to learn about what they're doing. I love sharing where we may have similar interests and talking about those interests, as we did in the podcast today. So if you are following along on this channel and you have not checked out our podcasts, I will link down in the description. I'm still working out the links. I'm not quite sure I have them done quite right, but I will try to link over to JT's channel where he posts our podcasts, because we do the CC and JT Amateur Hour every Sunday. And on that podcast, every other week, JT and I just chat about writing and what we're doing. And we alternate those with the author interviews. So this coming Sunday, February 1st, we will be posting a new author interview with author KJ Waters. So if you happen to stumble across this video, please go over to JT's channel on Sunday morning, and that will be posted. And those are up in perpetuity. We do need to organize the channel a little better, probably into seasons, because we have many years worth of podcasts up there at this point. I think we're working on our 5th year on the CC and JT Amateur Hour. Our second podcast, the Nevada Author Network, we do in collaboration with the Sierra Arts Foundation out of Reno, Nevada. We are members of Sierra Arts and the Sierra Arts literary community. And that's another way we've connected with people on a local level. We've met a lot of wonderful local authors that way that we've chatted with on our podcast, but we've also met them in person at our monthly Sierra Arts literary community meetings, which are a lot of fun. So if you are a local Northern Nevada author in the Reno, Carson City, Sparks, even up into Truckee, California, please feel free to come down and join us. You don't have to be a member of Sierra Arts Foundation to attend the meetings, but if you would like the opportunity to be on the Nevada Author Network podcast that we do, we recommend that you join Sierra Arts Foundation. It gives you the opportunity to have your books available through the Depot Gallery bookstore and the Riverside Gallery through the Sierra Arts Foundation. They do have bookshelves in the gallery space where local authors can sell at least a copy or two of their books. So we are maintaining connections all over the place as much as we can, even though we are retired and we could retreat into our little shells and stay home and not talk to people. But if we do that for too long, it doesn't feel very good. So I highly encourage you to seek out your connections, whether they be coworkers, whether it be family, whether it be people, People you follow on the internet, just say hello. If you follow specific YouTubers, or, you know, even if you're following certain fandoms, those can be good ways to connect too. So seek out those connections and, you know, interact with them when you can, when you feel up to it. And I'm sure it will help brighten your day a little bit. I know it's a bit of a ramble again. I am not a linear thinker, but I do feel it's an important topic, and I'm especially thinking about it now since we just recorded another interview, and we have another one coming up tomorrow that will be for the Nevada Author Network. So it's fun times, and you know, I do definitely recommend that you try to maintain as many connections as possible, even when you're not feeling like talking to the world at large, because it can be really good for your mental health and your physical well-being. So thank you for joining me on my daily ramble. If you are here, I hope you will connect with me. Feel free to leave a comment down below. Please share this with anyone you think might find it interesting. You can go over and check out our website at www.carsonhume.com to learn more about JT and I and what we're doing, find out more about our books and where they're available. You can also go to twomorebooks.com. That's TWRMOORE books.com. That is where the Nevada Author Network podcast episodes post. And you can go check out the variety of authors who live in the Northern Nevada area. You might find someone new and interesting. They write in a variety of genres, poets, fiction writers, nonfiction writers. There's all kinds of talent in our area. So I do encourage you to go check them out. And aside from that, I hope you have a wonderful day. I thank you for stopping by, and I will see you tomorrow. I'm Cassidy Carson, and this is The Life of a Writer. Take care.